possible action to be taken on the town board about the chairman's secretarial use of the town clerk treasurer to provide written correspondence, including letters and emails. I don't know what you think, Mr. Bianski. Clerk Salentine is not out picking up my dry cleaning. What's your problem?
I didn't think she was, so it's not a problem. You don't need to bully me here. My question is with regard to Jamie, are you comfortable having your time used to send emails that are being sent at the chairman's request, that then you send out saying to people like Clifton Larson Allen, town board members, other members of the residents, saying that you're sending that out, or do you find that burdensome and not appropriate for a clerk treasurer to be doing?
I believe that I am overseen by the chairman, so I think it is my duty to do such. If I'm directed, it usually comes from the chairman. So by my emailing and placing in the email, this is coming from the chairman, it is still being stated as such, so it's still removing me that you know it's not from me specifically, it's still coming from the chairman.
So you have this isn't creating some type of any workplace issue for you to be having that request made?
I said that I am overseen by the chairman and all of you, but I am pointed to the chairman. If he is going to request that of me, I will do such.
Okay, thanks.
Just for clarification, have I created any burden in your office?
I will do what I am told to do, because I am the clerk treasurer, and if you are the chairman and whoever is the chairman and directed to do so, I will clarify to all of them, and it is part of my duty.
Fair enough. Mr. Bansky, do you have anything further?
No, that's all I wanted to make sure.
On to anything further from anybody else? Seeing nothing, we'll move on to N, consideration of possible action by the town board regarding alteration or modification of the town board policy pertaining to complaints filed by residents requested by Supervisor Bianski.
If there's no objection, I'd like to as well include item P on our agenda, communication and information flow to town supervisors, which I see was requested by Supervisor Wolf. My request to have this discussion stems from a public works meeting in which it was revealed that the town board members are no longer receiving complaints that residents file. We used to have, our policy was that all complaints that came into the town were shared with each board member across the board, and that's changed in some capacity, and now I don't know who gets them or what that process is. And so Larry, maybe you can speak to what you know about that process, since it was a DPW issue that came up.
Well, my basic concern was the same thing. At the same meeting, at the DPW meeting, we were told that we were informed at that DPW meeting that we are no longer receiving complaints from the citizens. And I myself don't think that's right, that we're not hearing from you people out there with the problems that you're having, neighbor, or even if you're all the way across town. We're hired by you guys, we're elected by you guys. We should know what all the complaints are that are being sent to the town, how frivolous they are. I was told we're not being sent them because we were getting, they were worried about us getting bombarded by emails. Well, the junk emails I get in my work email and my personal email is nowhere near is way over what I get in the town. So you can look at an email and then just not delete it, because we don't do that in a town, but we can just go to the next one if we're not interested. But I think it's our responsibility to hear from everybody that has a complaint, so we know what's going on with our citizens in the town.
Mr. Fisher?
I think, looking for clarification, I think one of the issues we need to address is who is going to respond to complaint. Do you have a problem with that part of the procedure, that it's basically, I think, and maybe Jamie can explain that, a rotational assignment thing? Is the complaint is that you're not, is your complaint the fact that you're not seeing the complaints that are assigned to other supervisors to deal with? Is that the essence of it?
Yes, that's my complaint. When I first was elected and got on the board, I received every complaint that came into the town. And then it was designated to a certain supervisor, which I'm fine with that. That way we know who somebody's dealing with it, and we aren't all dealing with the same issue and bombarding them with them. The issue I've got is we're not seeing what the other supervisors are doing, or the complaints that are being done that we don't hear about.
If that's a pleasure, then we'll send the complaints out to everybody.
Can I explain the process first? I think there's a little bit of confusion at that DPW meeting. For clarification, when the phone calls come in and there is a complaint, there's a two-step process. One, us office ladies need to figure out if it's going to be a DPW complaint, and Jerry and Scott need to fix it on their end. If that is the case, it gets written up on a DPW order and sent to them. The white copy gets placed in front, the yellow gets in back until it is completed and given back. That item is the only item that had not been sent out because the DPW was handling those exceptionally. So they come back, they were then not given out via email at the time with the changeover because it was scanning this in, emailing everybody, then we're taking the steps to do that. That is the only item. If it is a resident that is complaining about long grass, they're complaining about this other item that is offset, a nuisance that needs to be obstructed, it is then assigned to a specific supervisor on a rotational basis on a list. The entire board is given in the comment, it says complaint. It then states who is the assigned board member, and then the complaint is attached to that email. All board members get that. However, lately, it's been quiet. So that list has been really not come through. Then when we have the moment to double check, we can at least go back to the supervisor or a board member that is in that rotation that has not, because when we get the phone call back from the complainant, and it has not been resolved, we can at least look at a process of what's happening and or contact the correct supervisor so they're not just out there. So the only other item that was not was the DPW, and those items can be looked at in the office. If the board would like to have that put back in place, that would be fine. I told Larry that at the board meeting, but I think there was just a misunderstanding at the meeting.
Yeah.
For my part, I don't need to see the things that are simply given to the DPW that they can simply dismiss and take care of. The rest of you can have your own pleasure. I don't need to see that.
Mr. Laska?
Mr. Laska?
I would like to see that, much like we used to see it. Jamie, would the potholes on a road, would that be considered a DPW issue?
Absolutely, they'd go out and fill it, as long as it's on our road. If not, we send it right over to the county or whomever road it is. We send it straight over there, we don't write up anything on that.
I can recall very vividly going on Heather Drive to look at potholes. I used to get that information. I do not get that information, but it's now that you just reassured us that we will get that information, it'll be very valuable, and it'll set up another possibility. You got a neighbor down the road that has an issue, a DPW issue, you just happen to be walking by, hey, Mike, what's the deal? I called about this 2 weeks ago. I know nothing about it. Embarrassing? Yes. Therefore, I would like all the emails of DPW as well as the residents, no matter how small the issue is, I would like to see that. This is how we keep our finger on on the pulse of our community. Thank you.
I don't think we need to take any action other than just asking Jamie to forward emails. Fair enough. Moving on, discussion and possible action of citizen comments requested by Supervisor Wolf. Supervisor Wolf.
Yes, I am handing out a resolution that I would like to make a motion to accept tonight. Be it hereby resolved, the citizen comments will be included on the agendas of all types of meetings of the town board of the town of Waukesha, and placed on the agenda immediately after the Pledge of Allegiance, which is also included in each and every agenda, every type of meeting of the town board of the town of Waukesha. Citizens' comments will not be proactively restricted in any way. If there is a conflict, a major vote of the board will determine if the speaker under citizen comments should be deemed out of order.
That's fine, except for one thing, the town ordinances speak differently, Larry. Under section 2-3-11, sub C, parens 2A, at meetings of the town board, no person other than board members of this board shall address the town board or any other member of the town board. This provision shall not apply to the town clerk, the town treasurer, the town constable, any member of the board, town engineer, town attorney, and town building inspector. This provision shall also not apply under the specific orders of business established to recognize the residents of the town or other persons under the specific order of business to recognize members of any town office, town committee, town agency, town commission, or special board, or other town officers, or except if the person has specifically requested the right to address the town board, and then only after the approval of the presiding officer. That's the chairman. The chairperson or presiding officer may impose a time limit on the length of time citizens may address the board, following the guidelines in section 2-3-14. Those in 2-3-14, those are guidelines for a public hearing. And sub F says, any person wishing to speak in rebuttal to any statements made may, with the permission of the chairperson, do so, provided, however, each rebuttal statement shall be limited to 3 minutes. That is the guideline that I'm using. It is not in your authority to change the ordinance. Mr. Wolf, your resolution cannot be acted on.
Okay, then, can you answer a question why, when we first got on, we changed time limit to 5 minutes? It was that way for a few meetings, and then now it's gone back to 3 minutes. If we voted to change to 5, how can it just go back to 3?
Because our town attorney didn't realize that our ordinance existed. Mr. Bansky.
In that same 2-3-14, you read that, that if they're speaking in rebuttal to the situation, then a 3-minute limit applies. However, it says under C, which is above that line, each person speaking on behalf of the proposition shall be limited to a reasonable time as set by the board.
Yes.
So that one
No,
says.
don't close that up, Mr. Bansky.
Just asking a
That
question.
is the procedure at public hearings. The procedure at a town board meeting says that the town chairman shall set the timeline,
Okay, so you
Period.
want to limit the speech? Okay.
as is done in every other community, Mr. Bansky. Yes. Mr. De La Mora.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to point out that there was reference to public hearings, and there is a distinction between public hearings and regular meetings. I also wish to point out that perhaps there was an error on your part in what you just said about my not being aware of the provision. I distinctly recall having had a discussion with you
I don't recall it.
well,
Thank you.
let me tell you what I recall it to be. And it was simply that the question came up as to the length of time that should be allocated and whether it should be reduced. You asked me specifically. And my comment to you, with reference in mind to the fact that it's within your discretion, was that it's better to allow people to speak than to stop them in the middle of their comments. And that pretty much was the end of our conversation, and subsequently I noticed that there was a reduction in the amount of time. Since it is within your discretion to determine how much time during regular meetings as a presiding officer people can speak, that is your prerogative, subject to a challenge to the ruling of the chair, which is permitted under Robert's rules.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr.
just
Fisher.
a couple of real things here. I can't support the resolution for a couple of reasons. It says, included on each and every agenda of every type of meetings in town board. That, if you take that, that means closed meetings. Clearly, we're not gonna have citizens' comments at closed meetings. We meet as a board of review. It's not appropriate to have citizens' comments at board review. We have all kinds of meetings where it is not appropriate to have citizens' comments on each and every agenda of every type of meeting. I'm taking your second sentence, citizens' comments will not be proactively restricted. I'm assuming that's time limit, is that what that means?
Yes.
Okay, and the other one, I mean, if there's a conflict, a majority vote of the board will determine if a speaker under citizens' comments shall be deemed out of order. Good grief, folks. Don't we have enough examples for everybody here of things that we argue over? Now we're going to take a vote to decide whether the citizens' comments are out of order? I mean, that's ridiculous.
I think it's a non-issue, Mr. Fisher, because the ordinances are the ordinances and they can't, it's not gonna be changed tonight anyway. I think we can move on to, barring any further discussion, to section Q, deer hunting and rifle, local use and regulation. The DNR came out with a advisory notice that rifles are okay for hunting statewide unless local ordinances say so. That included 19 counties, of which the county of Waukesha is one. We already have a local ordinance that says no center fire rifles can be discharged in the town of Waukesha. So that precludes shotguns and rim-fire 22s. And I don't think that this is an issue that we need to address. Anybody have any comments on that? Mr. Laska?
Yes, for Attorney Hector, is that your take on that ruling that came down from the state?
My understanding of the statute is that in situations where there are no restrictions, the state law allows the use of those kinds of firearms. In this particular situation, the town does restrict the firing of center fire rifles. I have to confess that the only thing that I know about center fire rifles is that basically there's a striking of a pin which detonates the explosive, which in turn discharges the bullet or whatever projectile is shot out. My only comment would be that if you are concerned about the use of some kind of firearm that could be injurious to the public safety, that isn't a center fire type of firearm, that you may want to consider enacting an ordinance to address those situations. To the best of my knowledge, our office has not received any complaints about the misuse of firearms in the town of Waukesha.
Anything further? I think we can move on to number 7, accounts payables.
I'd like to bring back, if possible, the problem under item, not the problem. The concern on the item, I'm trying to find it, the resolution back up top, regarding, there was a couple, two. The elections, if we go back to that, item, the elections for the contracted services, this is something that, where my machines get checked, the election machines get checked every year. Apparently this is something this is gonna be a double budget year for this one before it gets on a normal annual once a year. So there's two items being, paid in 1 year in this, so we have gone over if we were to pay that bill. The fire inspection, there's two items in here, salaries and wages, and the planning commission, those are payroll items, and have gone over. There wasn't for the fire inspection, the chief had budgeted a certain amount. The numbers in front of you would cover through the end of the year then. So I respectfully ask if you could please look at that and maybe just amend my resolution so we can get those appropriately paid. I can remove the other two items.
I'm not quite sure I completely followed that, but do we, and I guess I would look to Attorney Delamore, to you, do we need then to have a motion to reconsider the passing of that resolution so we can speak to it again?
Yes.
Okay, then I will move to reconsider the motion.
No, wait. And please note the change of the resolution would be 2013-22.
I don't think you can, Brian, yours would be prevailing party.
I would need Supervisor Laska, Supervisor Wolf, or Supervisor Bansky to bring that back up, please.
22?
Yes,
It
it's
says
listed as 20.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to reconsider item 6C1. I, or the resolution 2013-22.
Second.
just quick to my numbers. So So the total budget amendment for the items to be increased and decreased would total $1,400.
So we'd be, just for clarity, we'd be, if you're looking at your sheet, 5144, 0.7 elections, $1,000, 52210.1 fire inspection prevention, 300, 56303 planning commission, 100. Those would be the only items under consideration.
Correct.
And the motion in order would be to amend the original resolution.
We still have to take a vote on the motion to reconsider.
Yeah, I'm just trying to.
So we've got a first and a second on motion to reconsider. Is there any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we're on to Resolution 2013-22, amended to reflect 51-440.1, 51-440.8, 52-210.5, and 56-309, taking $1,400 total from those items, transferring them to 51-440.7 in the amount of $1,000, 52-210.1 in the amount of $300, 56-300.3 in the amount of $100, again for a total of $1,400.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second. Mr. Fisher? Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Wolf,
Yes.
Supervisor Alaska,
Yes.
Supervisor Fisher,
Yes.
Supervisor Bansky,
Yes.
Chairman Merrick.
Yes.
Motion approved. Thank you.
And lastly, authorization to pay the bills. Are there any bills that anybody would like considered separately on here?
Yes, I would like to have separate consideration for the bill for Carvello Carlson. I believe it's in the amount of $2,000. I need to abstain from voting on that bill. They have been a longstanding client of mine, and I'm presently doing work for them.
Anything else? And I also would like to consider the bills for law offices of De La Mora and De La Mora individually. And Jamie, you had to remove 1080 out of Central 42800, is that correct? what I'm seeing? Okay. So we're, $33,1022, so we're at a total of $100,952.66. And I would make a motion to approve the balance of the bills in the amount of $100,952.66.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Separately, the invoice from Carvello Carlson in the amount of $2,000.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Hold on. Okay, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. And Mr. Fisher is abstaining.
Abstain.
Lastly, law offices of De La Mora and De La Mora in the amount of $33,1022.
Motion approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Motion carries. Motion for adjournment?
Motion.
Wait, we have a manual check.
For $234.
$34.85.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And for adjournment,
Move to adjourn.
is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Pictures.